Hello children, this is Dr. Mini Dhawan and I'm back again with second part of CPSC class 10th Geography chapter 6 Manufacturing Industries part 2. Today we will learn more about agro-based and mineral-based industries. Then we will also learn about industrial pollution and measures to control it. So first we will be talking about agro-based industries. We have already learned that on the basis of raw material, we can divide industries into agro-based and mineral-based. Here I am talking about agro-based industries: cotton, jute, silk, wool, sugar, edible oil, etc. Industries are based on agriculture raw materials. So let's know about each one of them one by one. Textile industry. It contributes significantly to industrial production. 14% almost. It employs largest number of people after agriculture. That is around 35 million people directly. Its share in the foreign exchange earning is very significant, very important, about 24.6%. It contributes 4% towards GDP and is the only industry in the country which is self-reliant and complete in the value chain. That is, from raw material to the highest value added products. Means textile industry is considered to be self-reliant because see, products produced at each stage are used as the raw material for the next stage of production. So value chain refers to a number of activities that textile industry performs right from the production of raw material to the delivery of finished goods, and adds substantial value to that product at each stage of processing. Moreover, this industry has a lot of industrial production. It generates employment, earns foreign exchange. It contributes to a larger amount towards GDP. Cotton textile industry. It is an agro-based and the oldest industry in India. First cotton mill was established in 1854 in Mumbai. Cotton's textile is produced by three methods in India. First by handloom method, then power looms, and then mills. This industry provides a living to farmers, cotton ball pluckers, and workers engaged in spinning, weaving, dyeing, designing, packaging, tailoring, and sewing, etc. It supports many other industries such as chemical and dyes, packaging material, and engineering works. India exports yarn and ready-made garments to various countries: USA, Japan, UK, France, Nepal, Sri Lanka, etc. Now, at present, it is the largest industry in our country. There are about 1600 cotton textile mills in our country. Cotton textile mills are mainly concentrated in Maharashtra and Gujarat due to the favorable conditions there. Now, apart from that, apart from Maharashtra and Gujarat, important centers are Mumbai, Pune, Ahmedabad, Surat, Rajkot, and other centers are Agra, Kanpur, Hooghly, Chennai, Madurai, etc. Now the question arises, why there is so much concentration of cotton textile industries in Maharashtra and Gujarat. The main reason is availability of raw cotton that was abundant and cheap. Moist climate in these coastal states also helped in development of cotton textile industry because humid conditions are required for weaving the cloth, else the yarn breaks. So the climate was helpful, labor was in abundance, and raw material was also there. So these were the basic reasons why it dwelt more in the areas of Maharashtra and Gujarat. Mumbai, Pune, Ahmedabad, Surat, Rajkot, all these centers are in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Well developed transportation, that is also a requirement for any of the industry to develop. So well developed transport system and accessibility of port facilities, they are also there in Maharashtra and Gujarat. So that was another reason. So, and one more thing, close proximity to the market, as cotton clothes are ideal to wear in these warm and humid states. So that was also a reason. So all the facilities were there, climate was good, facilities were there, and market was also available. So that was the basic reason why cotton industries they dwelled here. Now we'll talk about certain problems which cotton industry or cotton textile industries they face. Now, first problem is the scarcity of good quality of cotton, as major cotton growing area went to Pakistan after the partition. We still need to import cotton in spite of the fact that producers of cotton in the country has increased. Now, machinery. If we talk about machinery, it is old and needs to be upgraded, especially in weaving and processing sectors. Lots of problems with part supply. It is erratic in our country. Low productivity of labor. Cotton also has to face tough competition from synthetic fiber industry, as that is cheap and durable. So they have to face very tough competition with synthetic fiber. Jute textile industry and its problem. India is the largest producer of raw jute and jute goods. There are about 70 jute mills in our country. First jute mill was set up in Rishira, that is in Kolkata, in 1859. Jute is used in making ropes, bags, carpets, etc. Lots of jute mills are there in Bihar, UP, Assam, and Tripura. So most of the jute mills they are located along the river Hooghly in West Bengal due to the favorable conditions. Now there are 69 jute mills located in 2 kilometer broad belt along the river Hooghly. This area provides many favorable conditions required for this industry. So first of all, that is raw material, raw jute that is available nearby areas of West Bengal. West Bengal, it's the largest producer of jute. Warm and humid climate is very favorable for cultivation of jute. Coal-fuel energy is brought from nearby Raniganj coalfields. Hooghly River, it provides cheap water transport. It is well connected by a good network of railways, waterways, and roadways. Now, Hooghly River, as I have told you, provide water for washing and cleaning of jute also. So abundant water is needed for processing of raw jute, and that is easily available here. Kolkata, it is a metro city which provides capital as well as the market. So finance is also there, capital is also there, market is also there, water is also available, raw material is also available. So it becomes a very ideal location for the development of jute industry. Now certain problems are also attached with jute industry. They are also facing certain problems. One, like cotton, main jute producing area after the partition, it went away from India. It went to Pakistan and later it became Bangladesh. So main jute producing areas they went to Bangladesh. Now high cost of production is there. Demand of jute is declining in international market also. And like cotton, jute is also facing tough competition from synthetic fiber industry as they are more durable and easy to make. So these are the certain problems which are being faced by the jute textile industry. Next, we'll discuss sugar industry. This industry is seasonal in nature. India stands second as a world producer of sugar but occupies the first place in the production of good and khansari. Earlier, UP and Bihar were the main producers of sugarcane. Therefore, most of the sugar mills were located in these two areas only, in these two states only. But now sugar mills, they are shifting towards southern India. Many of the sugar mills, they have been set up in Maharashtra also, Maharashtra, Karnataka. So now why sugar mills are located close to fields? That is a question which arises. The raw material used, that is sugarcane, that is bulky and perishable. It cannot be transported to long distances because जो sucrose content है, it dries up very fast. So it should be processed within 24 hours of its harvest or at the earliest. As I told you earlier also, sugar industry is shifting towards the southern and the western states. Now, what are the reasons for that? See, main reasons are that per hectare production of sugarcane is higher in southern India, and black soil is quite suitable for cultivation of sugarcane. Sucrose content in the sugarcane is higher in Maharashtra and Karnataka. It means more sugar can be produced from less cane, more sugar can be produced. And one more thing which is really very good, the crushing season for sugarcane is longer in southern states. So as long as crushing will be going on, production of sugar can go on and on. So mills and machines, they are also new in southern states. New and modern machines, they increase the productivity. Cooperative sugar mills are running successfully in southern states. Sugar industry, being seasonal in nature, is ideal for cooperative sector. Now we will discuss about mineral based industries. Industries that use mineral and metals as raw material, they are called mineral based industries. Let's discuss some industries that fall under this category. First of all, iron and steel industry, and what kind of problems it faces, what kind of challenges it is facing. This industry is called as basic industry because it provides raw material to all the industries. It may be a heavy industry, medium industry, or light industry. To all it is providing raw material. It's a basic one. All industries depend on iron and steel industry for the machinery. Many industries are dependent on it, such as machine tools, transport equipments, construction material. So they all need iron and steel. So that is the reason that iron and steel industry is called a basic industry, because it's providing raw material to many other industries. Now, one more reason to call it a heavy industry is because, see, raw material is like iron ore, coal, limestone. So raw material as well as the finished goods, both are heavy and bulky also, and leading to heavy transportation cost. So this is a reason we call it a heavy industry. So iron industry is called heavy as well as basic. Iron ore mixed with limestone is smelted into blast furnace using coking coal to produce pig iron. The ratio of the iron ore, limestone and coking coal is like 4:2:1. Pig iron is mixed with manganese, chromium and nickel, which makes it more stronger steel. India produces around 33 million tons of steel every year, even though per capita consumption of steel is very low, that is 32 kg, almost 32 kg. It is low because India has low economic and industrial development. And uses of iron and steel, that is a basic parameter of the development of any country. Most of the steel plants, they are located in Chota Nagpur region because again favorable conditions are there, they are available there, which are low cost of iron ore, as it is mined here in Chota Nagpur plateau only. High grade raw material is in close proximity, and availability of cheap labor is also there. So these are the various reasons why iron and steel industry that is developing in Chota Nagpur plateau. Now, there is a vast growth in the potential in the home market. Efficient transportation for distribution is also available. Availability of power, because this region has many thermal and hydel power plants, so availability of power, electricity, that is also there. That is a basic requirement. So favorable policies of the government like liberalization and FDI. So everything is helping in production of iron and steel in this area, in this vicinity. So all of a whole of the area that is having iron and steel industry concentration is there. Important integrated steel plants are integrated steel plants where right from the beginning, from iron ore to the finished product that is made, there are certain integrated steel plants in India and certain individual steel plants. So integrated steel plants and mini steel plants, we can call them, they are the two types of steel plants in India which are there. So integrated steel plants are in Jamshedpur, Durgapur, Bokaro, Bhilai, etc. And India is an important iron and steel producing country in the world. Yet we are not able to perform to our full potentials. Today, see, our steel industries in India are facing many problems. जैसे high cost of production है, limited availability of coking coal है, low productivity of labor है, irregular supply of energy, raw material that is found in certain pockets only. I told you that in Chota Nagpur plateau abundance of iron is raw iron ore is there. So when raw material will not be available, so wherever it will be available, concentration of steel plants will be there because it's a very heavy bulky material. It's not possible to have plants far away from the raw material site. Poor infrastructure जैसे transportation है, communication है, so this industry faces a lot of challenges. Now we'll be talking about information technology and electronic industry. The electronic industry covers a wide range of products from transistor sets to televisions, telephones, cellular, telecom, telephone exchange, radars, computers, and many other equipments required by telecommunication industry. This industry, it has generated employment for a large number of people. It has generated a very good employment in India. Bengaluru is known to be the electronic capital of India. It is also called Silicon Valley of India. There are 18 software technology parks in our country, and they provide single window service and high data communication to software experts. The industry has generated a large number of employment, and lots of people are employed in IT industry. Because of fast growing of BPO, that is business process outsourcing, this sector has been a major earner of foreign exchange also. BPO or business processing outsourcing is a business practice in which any organization, it hires another company to perform a a particular task that the hiring organization requires for its own business to operate successfully. So that is also, India is providing a lot of software professionals to the world. Many of the software professionals, they are being outsourced by different countries of the world. Now, important software technology parks are Mumbai, Pune, Noida, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, Bangalore, and Mohali. There and many other important centers are there. Now, we will talk about industrial pollution and environmental degradation. Industries are necessary for economic growth and development of any country, but these are also responsible for environmental pollution, environmental degradation, and you know it can cause air pollution, water, land, noise, soil pollution, different kinds of pollution. So we'll be talking about pollutions, and later we'll be finding out certain measures to cope with it. Right now we will be talking about air pollution. Air pollution is caused by presence of high proportion of undesirable gases, जैसे सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड है, कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड है. So smoke is emitted by chemical and paper factories. Brick kilns. Brick kilns means furnace where bricks are baked, refineries, smelting plants, and burning of fossil fuels. So this leads to air pollution. It adversely affects human health, animals, plants, buildings, atmosphere as a whole. Chimneys of the industries produce heat leading to global warming and greenhouse effect. The use of CFC, that is, you must have heard, chlorofluorocarbon, in various industrial products, it depletes ozone layer, which filters ultraviolet rays of the sun. So air pollution, it is really dangerous. Then water pollution. Now, what is water pollution? See, water pollution that is caused by organic and inorganic industrial waste and effluents discharged into the rivers. They are discharged in water bodies without the treatment and pollute these water bodies. It gets mixed into fresh water and lower its quality, which causes water pollution. The industries which are mainly responsible for water pollution are paper, pulp, chemical, textile, dyeing, petroleum refineries, electroplating industries, etc. They generate lot of toxic waste which kills the aquatic life also. Various water polluting products are dyes, detergents, acids, salts, and heavy material like lead and mercury, pesticides, fertilizers, synthetic chemicals including plastic, carbon, and rubber. Some other solid waste are fly ash, that is used in cement industry, fly ash. Then photogypsum, it is broadly known as calcium sulfate. Then iron and steel slags. So many a times rainwater also carries waste from soil to underground water and it pollutes it. That is mostly we have seen in the cases where insecticides and pesticides, when we are spraying it on the crops, or we are spraying it in the agricultural fields, after rain comes, this pesticide and insecticides, it gets into the soil, it spoils the underground water, and it pollutes it. So noise pollution. Unwanted sound is called noise. It is propagation of noise which has harmful impact on human or animal life. It results in irritation, anger, causes hearing impairment, increase heart rate and blood pressure, and other psychological disorders. No, the people who are living nearby these areas, they are mostly affected. High intensity and sound generated by running machines, sirens, drillings, fans, it leads to noise pollution. Its sources are mainly industrial and construction activities, machinery, factory equipment, generators, saws, and electric drills. We have seen that they cause a lot of noise pollution. Land pollution or soil pollution. Mining activity to get raw material for industries. This also degrades the environment. Land degradation, deforestation, soil erosion, waterlogging, etc., are the results of mining activities. Dumping waste such as glass, harmful chemicals, packaging, salt, and garbage, it causes soil pollution. Soil pollution signifies reduction in quality of soil, so it becomes unproductive. Then one more pollution is there, which is called thermal pollution. That is due to water only. It occurs when hot waters from factories and thermal plants is drained in directly into the river or a pond without cooling, due to which aquatic life, it suffers a lot. And this is called thermal pollution. And waste many a times released from nuclear power plants and weapon production factories can cause cancers, birth defects, miscarriages, many disease like that. So this cannot be overseen. Now we'll discuss how to control pollution. So first we'll be talking about air pollution. Air pollution, we know how it happens. So now filtering particulate matter using electrostatic precipitators, fabric filters, scrubbers, and inertial separators can be done. These can be fitted to smokestacks of the factories to prevent particulate matter mixing in the air. Use of less smoke producing fuels can be practiced. Instead of the coal, we can go for oil or gas in factories. Then it will produce very less smoke in comparison to fossil fuels, and therefore it will be helping in prevention of air pollution. Now, how to control water pollution? uh, Reuse and recycle, that is a mantra for reducing the water pollution. The external need of water can be minimized by properly recycling and reusing the same water. The best method to go with it is rainwater harvesting. That should be adopted. In many states, it is mandatory to do rainwater harvesting. Now, rainwater can be stored. Rainwater which flows like that only when rain comes, it just flows on the streets, and sometimes it creates a mist also. So that water which creates mist, we can just store that and we'll be out of the mess. It is going to help us duly. We'll be out of mess at the time of rainwater, and again when we'll be needing water, that water we can use to meet the water requirements of industries and domestic purposes. We can use that rainwater. Tamil Nadu is one of the states which has made it mandatory, rainwater harvesting. So the need is to adopt it. Now, waste treatment. See, before releasing the hot and hazardous water from industries into river, waste treatment is very necessary. Now, how can this be done? Waste material, whichever is present in water, how can that be, segregated? So, for that, we are having treatment of water: primary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. You must have read it in science also. Water is allowed to settle in large tank so that the solid waste would settle in the bottom and the gases will float at the top. Then secondary treatment, microorganisms added into wastewater. Microorganisms, they use organic waste as their food and eliminate organic waste from the water. Then comes the tertiary treatment. In tertiary treatment, other harmful elements such as inorganic chemicals, harmful living organisms, they are removed so as to improve the quality of water. This water can be reused after this process. Ground water resources, that needs to be regulated legally, so that as to limit should be there, that how much water can be taken out from the ground, and to sustain the groundwater for a very long time. Now we'll come to how we can control noise pollution. Machine improvements are necessary. If we'll be improving machines, what is going to happen? It is going to reduce noise and it is going to increase efficiency also. So what can be done? Oiling and greasing can be done. In the existing machines, this can be done, oiling and greasing, and that is going to do what? That is going to help in reduction of noise pollution. Then use of noise absorbing material or using earplugs or earphones, that is also going to reduce noise pollution. Today there is a need of sustainable development. Sustainable development, you already know, I have discussed it earlier also. Sustainable development is doing development without harming the nature. So that is the need of an hour. Sustainable development. Now, economic development should take consideration of environmental concerns also. That is also very important. We cannot stop development. We cannot, stop all the industries. But what we can do away with the methods, those methods which are creating chaos or which are creating hazards in environment. We can do away with that. So next is proactive approach adopted by the NTPC for preserving the environment and resourcing. Optimum utilization and upgradation of equipment by adopting latest techniques. Minimizing waste generation by maximizing ash utilization. Whatever is left over, you can use that again. So waste generation will be less. And if you will be upgrading the equipments by using latest techniques, then of course the waste generation will be less. And green belts are now nurtured to maintain the ecological balance. We have seen that in factories, in industries, nearby residential areas. We see nowadays a pattern which is called green belt or social forestry. Trees are planted in rows in industries, and they are being motivated to grow more and more green belts near the industries where production is being done. For that, they are being certified also. There are certain certificates which ensure that particular industry, they are having a green belt and they are not harnessing they are not harming the nature. Now, reducing environmental pollution through ash pond management, ash water recycling system, and liquid waste management. Whatever the waste is, how to manage that. That is also an art, and that is the need of the hour. Ecological monitoring, reviews and online database management for all its power stations. That is also required. So these things are being done at NTPC. Now, certain steps to control or minimize environmental degradation. Here are some ways through which environment or can be saved, or industrial pollution that can be reduced. We had talked about it earlier also, but now we are I'm putting it into a gist. What can be done? I'm putting it at one place. Here are some ways with which we can reduce the environmental degradation. First, minimizing the use of water. That is very important. We know that water is very less, and the way we are using water, the day is not far away when it will be, uh, it will be very less. Gone are the days when water was in abundance. Now if we see our rivers, they are dying. If we certain places, they have been marked on earth where water is going to go away, or it is going to, it will be over by, at certain places in 21st century. And there are certain cities in India also which are lying in this map. So minimizing the use of water, that is necessary by reusing it and by recycling it, both the ways. We can reuse the water, we can recycle the water. Rainwater harvesting, I've already told you that. Rainwater harvesting to meet the water requirements, treating hot water and effluents before releasing them in rivers and ponds, so that marine life, it may not be affected, and it may not cause a problem for marine life, for vegetation also, water vegetation also. Now, particulate matter in the air can be reduced by fitting smokestacks, I've told you, to the factories with electrostatic precipitators, fabric filters, scrubbers, and inertial separators. That can be done. Smoke can be reduced by using, oil or gas instead of coal in the factories. Machinery can be redesigned to increase energy efficiency and reduce the noise. Industries should be located with careful planning and better designs. Nowadays, we have seen that industries, they are being located in outside the cities. And normally, what happens? Government, it provides a zone where industries can be established, and that particular area becomes a hub also. They benefit by staying near each other, and moreover, it is little bit away from the habitation, little bit away from where the people are living, from the city. It's on the outskirts of the cities. And careful planning and better designs are there. Careful planning in terms of lots of trees they are planted. Designs are such that pollution is, most of, they're trying to control the pollution. So better designs, innovative designs are being made now in factories and in industries, in offices. We have seen there are vertical gardens. Very innovative ideas have been there in past few years to cope with the problem of environmental degradation, or to cope with this pollution. Non-conventional sources of energy should be used instead of fossil fuels. So stress is on that. Non-conventional sources of energy, like we may use hydel energy, then we can go for solar one, then tidal, then geothermal. So many different wind energy, types of energy, non-conventional sources of energy, they should be used. We should opt for those instead of using fossil fuels. So we may keep fossil fuel for our coming generations also, and we may stop the pollution also, both things. Landfilling method should be adopted for dumping the waste. So how to manage landfill, that is also an art, so that waste can be dumped on one place only, and it may not scattered on different places. It may not cause pollution. Polluting industries should be located away from towns and cities. That I've already told you, that nowadays it is happening that planning is such that the industries which cause noise pollution, or which cause air pollution, they are being located away from the towns and the cities. So these were certain measures which can be taken, or which have been taken by some of the industries, but still there is a dire need to do away with pollution, to opt for certain good measures. And with this topic, with this conservation topic, with this topic of coping with pollution, um, the topic comes to an end, the chapter comes to its end. And here I would add one thing: knowing is not enough. We must apply it. That should be the mantra. Knowing is not enough. We must apply it. Opt for conservation, save Earth.